Welcome to your Artsy Girl podcast. I am your host, Christina Carrere. This is a podcast about art, poetry, and anything about creativity. Sit back, relax, and get your dose of brain food to get your creative juices flowing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 25. My next featured guest is Emily Vieweg. She is a poet and writer, originally from St. Louis, Missouri. She earned her MFA in poetry in 2015 and has published 2 short chapbooks of poetry. Emily's poetic success includes publications appearing in Indolent Books' What Rough Beast, Santa Fe Writers Project, as well as winning Best Performance Work in the 2nd Annual Human Rights Arts Festival for her poem, Vision. Emily lives in Fargo, North Dakota, where she is a single working mother of 2, volunteer car wrangler, human rights advocate, and office assistant. Please welcome my next featured guest, Emily Vieweg. Hi, Emily. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for reaching out. And I'm honored you wanted to be on your Artsy Girl podcast. But before we talk about, your literary work and your activism, I would like to get to know you a little more. Can you tell us where you're born and where you're from?
I was born near St. Louis, Missouri, in a smaller suburb called St. Charles, Missouri, and born and raised. Didn't leave there. I went away to college for a year, but then came back home, and so lived there most of my life, my adult life, and moved from there to Kansas. My son and I moved to Kansas. Yeah, big jump. Born, and then we moved. Right before I turned 30, I moved to Kansas. We lived with my parents for a few years, and then after that, Dad got a job up near Fargo, North Dakota. So my son and I packed up, followed my mom and dad up to North Dakota, and we've been here now for 11, 12 years, something like that. So Now we're living in Fargo, North Dakota, and I'm raising my 2 kids and working full time and doing the mom thing. So right.
Yeah. And you're able to create and produce and publish beautiful poems. That's amazing. So tell me a little bit about, your activism there. I know in your bio you state that you do things for the human rights activism of some sort.
Well, I always try to, I earned my master's in fine arts so I could teach at the college level. That's what I really wanted to do. And I wanted to teach at the college level because I wanted to help people find their voices. And I think I felt like I could connect best with the younger college group. So that was my ultimate goal with my MFA. And also, so I was just like, I want to help people find their voices. That's what I really want to do. And also, though, I'm raising 2 children with autism spectrum disorder. So until they're able to use their voices, I need to help them communicate until they're able to do it on their own. So I really, since my son, he's 20 now, since my son was a toddler, I've been saying there's a reason behind the behavior. It's our job to figure out what it is. So his method of communication was to scream or to melt down or something. And it was our job to figure out what he's trying to say. And once he's able to find that voice, then he is off to the races, and he can advocate for himself and such. So that's kind of where it really started, was advocating for my kids, and then it sort of morphed into, all right, well, who else needs some, doesn't necessarily need a leg up, but just needs a toe in the door. And then I'm happy to hold the door for someone who may not necessarily feel like they have a good support system or anything. I mean, any kind of struggle that's in their way, whether it be developmental disability, whether it's, oh gosh, I don't know, race or human rights or LGBT or anything that is suppressive to that voice. Maybe there's something I can do to kind of just get some air in there long enough for them to get the voice through. So that's kind of where the activism piece is. It's just, and at the same time, I don't want to be the, here I am, the white savior. I don't want to do that either. Like it's a very fine line from advocating for others who may not have a voice and stepping back when just enough of, oh, this person has something to say, and stepping back. So it's a fine line, and I'm still learning how to navigate that line. But it's just fascinating. To go with that.
Yeah. In the poetry, when did you find poetry? And do you find that, okay, so you study poetry and you create poetry and you use poetry to heal others, hopefully. And so when did you discover poetry?
I've been a fan of poetry ever since I came across Dr. Seuss when I was a child. And I didn't realize at the time that this is poetry. It was fun to read and fun to hear. But the one that really sticks out as, okay, this is interesting and it has a message, was actually the Sneetches, the star-bellied Sneetches, and there is such a strong lesson to learn in that story. And, now as an adult, I'm looking back and I'm like, that man, it was brilliant.
He was brilliant, yes.
Created this language and these characters and these words. What's a wocket? Well, Dr. Seuss figured it out. He gave us what a wocket is. And what's a sneetch? Well, here it is. And this man created these emotions and these words, and just the idea that a person could create a word.
Right.
Like, you don't have to, here's a sneetch, and this is what they look like because this is what I see. It was remarkable to me growing up and realizing, oh man, I could do that. I can't do but maybe I can report on what I see. And that's mainly what my poetry does, is I take inspiration from my life and my kids and my experiences. And I think that's, a friend of mine, or a former professor of mine, said that I find the beauty in the mundane. And I love that, because, who writes a poem about going to the laundromat?
I do. I did. I wrote a poem, and it's called Poet in 7 Days, and I broke it down in, of course, 7 stanzas. And it's literally just me doing the dishes, folding the clothes, and buying cereal for my kids. I'm minimizing it, but that was essentially the poem. So, yes, I could totally relate to that. As mothers who are artists and writers, it's so intricately, intertwined, it's part of our everyday life, and so, yeah, that's cool. And so, and as far as, and aside from Dr. Seuss, and then when you went into high school, did you discover more poetry? And of course, that led you into your MFA coursework and stuff?
I actually took a break. I took my first creative writing course in college, and I had loved writing. I was actually planning to go to college to be a math teacher.
Wow.
Yeah, I was.
So you're good at math.
I was. Can't do new math. I get lost. But I was. That was 25 years ago now. So that was my plan. But then I always loved creating stories and writing and coming up with characters and things like that. And I loved theater. And so I was just all around a word nerd, I suppose, is the best way to put it. But at my freshman year of college, I was in a creative writing class, writing poetry class. And my first attempt at writing a new poem in class resulted in the instructor saying, "This is crap, and I don't know why you're bothering to write it." And
really?
Yeah. Yes,
oh
really.
My gosh.
This is really what happened. And maybe not in those specific words,
but
that was just
yeah.
That was like, why are you even bothering to write? This is crap. And he was a published poet, so he knew what he was talking about. And I was a young 18-year-old, very, very green freshman, not worldly at all, very, protected growing up. So I was like, oh, well, inside myself, I was like, oh, well, if this guy is a published poet and he knows, maybe I better just quit writing. So I quit writing for 10 years.
Wow.
I dabbled now and then, but I quit writing for 10 years until, I'd keep a journal and stuff like that. It wasn't on the front of my mind, though. I was like, all right, well, I guess I better find something else to do with my free time. And then I was working at Washington University in St. Louis. And my mom said, well, since you have some extra time, since you're a single mom working full time, you have extra time. I had my son who was going into kindergarten. She said, you need to find something to do. So why don't you take a writing class? Because you get the tuition for free because you're working there. Why not do it? And I was like, well, all right, I guess, whatever. And making that decision and going to that creative writing class changed my life.
Yeah.
The instructors, his name was Brian, and he responded in a way that was so helpful. And I turned in my poem that was going to get workshopped that day, and here I am thinking, all right, well, here we go again, all right. And the way he said it was, he was so good at teaching. And this is where I got my gumption and my maybe I could do this for a living. He said, you know what? I see where this poem is going. And he's tapping the table right on the poem in this particular spot. And he just tap, 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 tap. I see where this is going. It just feels, this line here, it just feels, and he's searching for a word. And I say, clunky, and he said, that's it, this part right here, and he's circling the word on with his finger on the paper and tapping. This feels clunky. It just needs to be tightened up. I need you to tighten it up. And he's doing all of this, grabbing the air with his fist, tightening it up. I see him doing this. It was wonderful. And that was it. I was like, okay, that's the kind of feedback I need.
Right.
I need an acknowledgement saying, I think I know where this is going. This part needs to get some work done.
Well, you hear the saying that a lot of writers don't make good teachers. So,
right.
Creative pedagogy is a tough field. They're still studying it. So, yeah, but a good teacher will definitely bring out the best in you and your work for sure.
Yeah,
so
I wrote some bad poetry.
We all did.
I do. When we're just, word vomit onto the page, it's just, this is just terrible. And, now I'm at the point now, I'm in my 40s now, I can accept this is crap poetry. And I can say, well, you may think so, but I don't. So, your opinion doesn't matter to me. Or, well, thank you very much for the feedback. And now move on. But as a very young 18, I thought, oh, well, this person is published. He's like a poetry god, and he knows, right. And I have to do what I'm told, which is absolute nonsense. So I learned so much. Now that I'm grown and an adult, I know that moment changed my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that's feedback. Yeah. That is feedback. That's saying, I think you know what you're doing. I want to help you make it better. And that's the important thing, is that's what new writers need.
Yeah.
We need encouragement, and we need to say, hey, you have a voice here, and I think if I can't help you hone it, let's find somebody to help you hone it. And that's what did it, I think, for me.
So tell me how. So college years, you got your MFA, and I assume you were already publishing, or were you publishing after?
My first official poetry publishment. That's not a word. I'm creating the word.
Dr.
First time I got published was in a writer's journal, and I got third place in a contest back in, I think, 2005 was my first official. A poem is published in print.
Okay.
And I've published several single pieces throughout the years. Most recently, though, the last 5 years have just been phenomenal for me. I'm so thankful for all of the support that I've had from family and friends, and the arts partnership that I'm a part of here in Fargo. I wouldn't be able to have the time and space to create this amazing work that, well, I mean, it's not just my amazing work, but any amazing work, without that kind of support, because single mom, 2 kids, both on the spectrum, when do I have time to live a life, And
I understand you have your struggles too. I read that in one of your bios there.
Yes, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 29. And so I've been, I take medication, and I go to talk therapy when I need it to help me deal with my bipolar depression. Primarily, it's more depression than mania. I'm thankful to say that I haven't had a mania to the point of, believing I can fly, or believing I'm Jesus, or just things to that level. I'm thankful that I haven't gone to that point, but I have been in some very dark mindsets and very sad, very depressed places. And sometimes the poetry helps. Sometimes writing it down.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, sometimes it does help. And I think that a favorite piece of mine that I've written is a performance piece called Bipolar Is. And I was just fed up with trying to explain what bipolar was to some people. So I started venting. And I said, all right, first of all, it's not a mood swing. And that's one of the first things I say in the poem. Let me tell you first what bipolar is not. Bipolar is not a mood swing. A swing is youth and joy and innocence, ear to ear walls of teeth, eyes closed, arms embracing the wind. That's how the poem starts.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, you have to kind of educate folks, and some people actually know and have, or know somebody, loved ones who have or are going through that also. So it's about time we start talking about it, and help other people with those issues as well, and say that they're not alone, and poetry, it's not the end all be all, but it certainly is like you said, gives voice to the suffering and to people who have a hard time expressing. So
yeah, absolutely. And being able to look at something, or hear a piece of work and say, oh my gosh, that part right there, that's me. That's what I feel. And even if it's not all encompassing, of course, because every person is different and everyone's experience with life is different, it's close. Another piece that I'm pretty proud of is called Pounding, and it was published on spillwords.com, which has some amazing poets on there. They're amazing. And that came after the Me Too movement blew up, and I thought, wow, I have to write, because I'm also a sexual assault survivor. So Yeah, that happened when I was 18 also. So,
oh, wow.
I mean, yeah, so it was a date rape type of situation. And it was just every November, my brain goes there, and this is my experience. And then it's not just every November in this poem. I'm saying, the hashtag me too. There are 15,000 people in this group, and it's hashtag me too. And just it's pounding it into your brain. It's like, this isn't strange. This has been going on for generations. It's still going on. And now finally people are starting to wake up. Maybe, it's been happening for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
Let's get a move on. Let's figure this out here.
Yes. Let's talk about it. It's happening and people are being hurt. And yeah, definitely. And you and I share a lot of parallels, being single moms. And I started too at a community college. And it opened my world up, and then it made me continue on and get my MFA as well. So, and now you have also, I understand, a chapbook?
Yes, I have two chapbooks. My first chapbook was actually part of my MFA thesis, which I had to submit to a press in order to graduate. That was one of my projects. So
really, that was a requirement in your wow.
The requirement: send out your manuscript to a publisher for this introduction to publishing class, and I did. And they came out of hiatus and to publish it, which was
awesome.
Ridiculous. I was like, what? What do you mean? What? Really? Are you sure? And I was just baffled, because I'm like, you want to publish my book? What? But that gave me kind of the gumption to say, maybe I should write more and write more seriously, and maybe write in a theme type of situation. So I decided I used to listen to classical music all the time, and I thought, I wonder if I could paint a picture with words to the music of, let's say, Beethoven and Bach. Those were the ones that I picked. I could have picked Mozart. I could have picked Vivaldi. I could have picked many. I chose Beethoven and Bach. So my chapbook is Conversations with Beethoven and Bach. And it's really the pictures I saw when I was listening to that piece of music. So the title of the poem is the title of the music. And if you play the music starting at the very beginning of the track, that's the picture that I see. And so I wrote that down.
Wow.
And that's where that came from. And it's available on Amazon. If you Google me on Amazon, it's right there.
Yeah, I'll certainly put your links up on the show notes as well.
Yeah, that was just a short chapbook that I self-published through Amazon, which was really fun. That was really cool to be able to pick the cover art and do the formatting, all of that stuff. It was really fun. To figure out, okay, what am I really doing? Am I really doing this? I'm really doing this. So it's been a trip. It really has. It's been a great journey. And now this summer I'm pulling together a full length book, and I don't have a title for it yet because I just don't know. I'm not good with titles, I guess. I don't know. But I'm pulling a full length. I know, eventually. I'm pulling together a full length, and I'm meeting with a mentor in a couple weeks, actually, down in Minneapolis. And I was able to get a grant to help me fund this this mentor situation. So she's going to help me kind of organize things and hone in on some theme things and all the stuff that I don't know how to do. I don't know the book business, and she's going to kind of help me with that. And I'm really excited for that, because that means that I'll be that much closer to a full length.
Yes. I just published my first full length, so I know what you mean. I mean, I had a chapbook out. In fact, my thesis was my first chapbook also. but it wasn't a requirement. I just sent it out anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So, and then finally I got my first full-length publication, and it took a long time, I have to say. But, just stay persistent and keep at it, and so that's you answered my next question about what are your current projects and future goals. So
that's a big one. A short-term goal I have is I'm actually going to be participating in it's called how does it go? The August Poetry Postcard Fest. And every day in August, we register to be a part of this project, and then we get a list of names and addresses. And every day in August, we write a poem and mail it to someone on the list. And we just go down the list. And so we end up with 31 poems at the end of August. And there we go. There's our next little chapbook. And it's really it's fascinating. And I've gotten some fabulous starters for longer projects.
Those are such great ideas. I mean, as far as community based, how getting the whole community involved.
Yes.
I love those. Those are great.
Yes. I'm really excited. This will be my third year doing it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, okay, I've never been to Midwest that way. So one day I'm going to go try to visit up there because I'm always curious, like how it's like up there.
During the spring or the summer, don't come to Fargo in the winter.
I know.
Unless you want to get snowed in and have absolutely nothing to do except, maybe getting on the highway to go skiing. But other than that.
On the highway, huh?
Yes. Yep, you'll go skiing on the highway.
Oh, wow. Well, it was great talking to you, Emily. Any parting words or?
Just get your voice out there. Everybody, don't be afraid to do that. I think, somebody's listening. Somebody's always listening. Somebody's always looking for new voices. We just have to be loud enough for people to listen.
Absolutely. And that's why I started your Artsy Girl podcast, to give everyone, the people a platform and, have people who are just stumbling through the podcast channel, saying, hey, what's out there? And boom, you got poetry. You got Emily here talking about poetry.
Yep, we got me.
Well, Emily, it's been great talking to you and learning more about you and your work. I wish you the very best of luck, and do stay in touch, okay?
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, everyone, that is it for now. Please tune in next week for my next featured guest. In the meantime, have a productive and creative week. Bye, Emily.
Bye.